What's up, everybody? My name is Celso Oliveira, and I'm here to talk to you about Los Angeles Football Club, LAFC. And I'm here with my partner in crime, Erik Holstrom. He's here with Andrew Todos, and we're here to talk about LAFC's perhaps new signing, Artem Smolyakov. I'll kick it up to you right away, Erik. It's great to see you first and foremost. It's been a while since we've been here talking to one another. How are you, my friend? And what are we going to be talking about it today regarding our black and gold, a topic we've always liked to talk about, as you know.
Our first show of the 25 season. We're looking into the preseason right now, getting ready for us. And good times, man. We saw today Artem Smolyakov, left back from Ukraine. And looking at the internet, there is almost very little information out there about him. And so we were able to find Andrew Todos here to maybe fill us in on some things that we don't know. Hey, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the show. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm a British-Ukrainian sports journalist. I'm kind of the main guy when it comes to Ukrainian football outside of Ukraine. So fingers crossed I can enlighten yourselves and other LAFC fans a bit more about Artem.
Oh, appreciate it so much. And, hopefully this is just the beginning of more Ukrainian players coming over here to our league. We take a lot of pride in our MLS. I know people have a lot of different opinions on it, but, there's nothing like watching your domestic league. And so we're all excited for our league to just get better and keep developing more talent. So with Artem, what are his traits and his strengths do you see at the left back position?
Well, I think, first of all, he's still extremely young. He's going to turn 22 in May, so I think he's going to have your sort of the under-22 spot. He's pretty consistent in terms of playing time over the past 3 years since he made his debut for Invalets. He's been more or less a stalwart for both Invalets and then Police, who he's played for the past 2 seasons. And yes, I think at the moment, I think there's lots of excitement about him. He's relatively quick. He's quite a lateral fullback in the sense he likes getting up there a lot, tracking back pretty good defensively as well. So I think there is a player there that just needs a bit of moulding, in my opinion. I think MLS is probably the perfect place for him to continue that development.
Yeah, no, this is great. And, sure, as you know, our coach, Steve Cherundolo, is a legendary, one of the probably most legendary fullbacks the U.S. has ever produced. His nickname is the Mayor of Hanover because I believe, has the most caps for Hanover in Germany of all time. And so I think he does a great job of molding defensive players, and I'm sure there was something about him that caught his eye. But hearing that he's great on defensive is fantastic. I mean, our team really is changing things up. We picked up Olivier Giroud. We've had trouble getting service to him, and I think hopefully Smolyakov is going to be part of the answer to getting this done. So his weakness is mostly, you think, is just, he really just needs to build up experience?
Yes, but then, so I think there's a number of things. Right now, the Ukrainian Premier League is in the midst of its winter break. I know, obviously, the MLS season hasn't started as well, so it's actually going to be quite good once he joins. I guess he might be on a similar footing with everyone else in terms of prepping for the season, but he's sort of halfway through the season. Still, I think he should be quite all right with that adaptation. However, I think there's also the fact that the Ukrainian Premier League, since the full-scale invasion by Russia 3 years ago now, the intensity in the league has dropped quite a lot. In terms of the kind of opposition you play against. Police are one of the better sides, per se. I feel that he's probably going to need to just adapt to that once, obviously, the league gets underway, once he gets a few starts under his belt and continues going, because that's one thing that I think is quite important, and I think it's going to be very good for his development to play in a more intense, more physical, more demanding league against more competitive sides that aren't just sort of 10 men behind the ball the whole game or something similar. So I think it will be those certainly things that he can work on. And I think, like you mentioned, you want a bit more delivery into Giroud. I'm hoping that he'll be able to bring that, and I think that is probably a part that he can also work on as well. Because looking at his stats, he does like to put in a number of crosses in. However, he's not had the best of forward options to put things into over the past few years at Policia. The centre forward position has been a bit inconsistent. They have been playing with target men, but Olivier Giroud is obviously on a different level compared to the ones he's been playing with. And I think I'm hoping that his English is all right. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm sure he'll be able to pick that up relatively quickly because he's in quite a semi-international squad in Policia right now. So I think he should be sort of building on that.
So a couple of questions for me. Andrew joined us here to talk a bit about Artem, the potential left back signing for LAFC. You've already talked about his service being, somewhat of an area of I wouldn't call it a weakness, but area of improvement. And it's very important that we have someone skilled in that particular part of the game. What can you talk to us about his positioning with the defense? Because one of the things that's happening with LAFC is that we're transitioning to a 3-back. It seems like it's here to stay. We're not going to have to, a 4-back, how most teams operated and how Steve Cherundolo used to operate. So more than likely, he's going to be tasked with playing some sort of 3-4-3 or maybe even a 5-3-2. What can you tell about Police's, style of play? Then maybe facilitate this type of game that Steve Cherundolo is likely to implement for LAFC in 2025.
Well, to be honest, I think most of the season, Police have actually been playing with 4 at the back. However, like I mentioned, he's he likes getting down the line a lot. And there have been occasions where he's played more as a wide man rather than a full back. So he's got that in his locker in terms of he's quite versatile anywhere down that wing. At Police, he's got 2 relatively stable centre-backs along that play, next to him. And I think that, altogether they combine relatively well. So once he's sort of on the same wavelength as his new teammates, I think that he'll be more than good enough in terms of recoveries, tackling, duels, that kind of thing. I think he should be pretty good with those things once he gets up to speed with sort of the new pace of the league.
So what about his Portuguese? I have to ask, I'm Brazilian, Andrew, and he's coming to a team now at 2 to 3 Brazilians here. The Ukrainian soccer is not strange to Brazilians. Often come in, made careers for the players there. Quite a lot of success from other players, and also that I can think of that have had some time in Ukraine. But what's the state of the Brazilians currently at his team and the league, right? And do you think that he's going to have, like you said, an easy time or a hard time adapting to an international roster in a city like Los Angeles?
I think he should be all right. In all honesty, he's young enough. He's obviously not been playing professional football that long. It's just been 3 seasons since he made his debut. So I'm hoping that adaptation can be relatively smooth and quick, especially on the fact that he's left Ukraine at such a young age. It should allow him to improve in that adaptation process as quickly as possible. And like you mentioned, he's got a few Brazilians in his team at Policia right now. A guy called Thales Costa is sort of the holding midfielder there this season. So he's got experience with playing with some international players. So I think that shouldn't be too much of a problem. And if anything, he's currently living in a war zone, which, Policia isn't like super heavily impacted, I guess, from daily bombardment and all that kind of thing. But there are regular air raid alerts and all that kind of thing, which during matches they interrupt games. So sometimes matches don't just last 90 minutes plus half time; they last 3 hours longer and can take ages, and you don't know when they're going to finish and all that kind of thing. So that has obviously been a problem for all players. But I feel that from his perspective, 2 to a country that's obviously a lot more stable, that is completely stable, living in Los Angeles, I think it's going to be sort of a dream come true for him. And I think hopefully he can flourish in that environment.
Eric.
Yeah, that was, I mean, you hit most of my last question, which is just what it must be like for these kids growing up and playing in a war zone. You know, it's, we always will talk about, you know, how important family is and how there's so much things that are really bigger than the game that we should all focus on. And seeing these kids come up and go through that, I mean, air raids in the middle of games and having suspend matches is pretty mind blowing to us here. And I think a lot of MLS fans looking at this show, I mean, you know, we're so far removed from it, it's hard for us to imagine what it's like with bombs going off in our cities all the time, trying to train. And yet this kid's living his life there. He's thriving. You know, I'm sure a lot of potential talent and players chose to defend their nation as opposed to going for it in football. So I imagine, you know, it puts a huge weight and responsibility on everybody. And, you know, I mean, you hit most of it. I don't know if there's much more you want to comment about that, but please feel free to kind of tell us more about all that going on.
Yeah, one thing I was going to ask, and again, feel free to tell us because it paints a pretty crazy picture for us.
It's just the realities of day-to-day life.
Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay, Andrew, but you know, appreciate you joining us. Andrew Todos join us from London to talk about Artem Smolyakov, potential left back reinforcement for LAFC. Smolyakov, right? Okay, I apologize for that. I knew we were going to make a mistake there. We rehearsed it before, and it was for absolutely nothing. But you know, I appreciate you joining us, Andrew, to talk more about this potential reinforcement in the left back position. Is one that we were all concerned about. There's really nobody there after the departure of Omar Campos, and in a position that we were already pretty shallow. And you know, if this kid is everything you advertise him to be, he comes in with a big opportunity to show the league, you know, his talents and get some true playing time here, develop himself. The catch is always, can you remove yourself from the cultural barriers, right? The cultural shock that you're experiencing, no matter what. It is a massive change to come to a place like LA and embrace a culture of learning with a lot of young guys that are going to be around him. You got Igor Jesus coming in. You have Danny Martinez, which is David Martinez, a very young guy as well. So he's going to be surrounded with youth. So it's going to be good for him, I think, coming here and kind of learning you know, from Coach Cherundolo and, you know, Coach Dos Santos as well. You know, a very important piece in our defensive strategy. Eric, I'll kick it to you. Anything else you want to add? And, of course, Andrew, if you want to tell us a little bit about how to find you, your work.
Give us some plugs, Andrew. Give us some plugs.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Just one final thing about Smolyakov. He is an under-21 Ukraine international. And there are the Euros taking place this summer. So I'm not sure how that might affect his availability and all that kind of thing. But just worth mentioning. And maybe, you know, if he keeps it up here with LAFC, once he joins, might become a full international at some stage soon as well. For myself, find me on Zorya Londonsk on Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, if you can read Ukrainian. And I also do a podcast as well, mainly monthly, Ukraine Plus Football, where we talk about Ukrainian football and everything around it in English. So join us wherever.
All right, Andrew. I have a feeling you're going to start to be a go-to English resource as hopefully more Ukrainians come to our league. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah.